Hey guys, welcome back to Clownfish TV. This is Neon. I am here with Geeky Sparkles.
Hello.
And we're going to talk about the animation industry outsourcing to North Korea. We talked about this before because some shows, I guess, were being outsourced to North Korea, including HBO Max shows, including Amazon Prime shows, including Invincible.
But here's what I'm confused about. So North Korea doesn't want anything to do with like Western ideology, Western ideas, but they have no problem animating Western shows that are full of them.
Apparently, that's
I mean, you know, we're so toxic we can't be over there, but we can still be exposed to all of it when you're taking the money to animate it. Did that make any sense? That's like the Amish people we can't use electronics, but we still have cell phones and we go shop at the store and take cars in and everything else. And I can say that because I live in an area that's really, really full of it.
We live, yes, Pennsylvania, lots of Amish everywhere. We're gonna talk about this because it's interesting. You're like, why is an Italian studio being fined by the US Treasury? And here's because they used American financial institutions to pay North Korean animation studios, and that violates sanctions or something, or
but
the law.
They had to have laundered it some way because they just said it directly. They would have caught it.
I don't know. So
somebody's got some explaining to do.
I am wondering if we're not going to see more of this because again, this is an Italian studio, and there are allegations that Amazon Prime and HBO Max are using the same services. Now, the story I heard was that they contracted South Korean animation studios, which most quote-unquote Western animations actually animated in South Korea. Mm-hmm. And then they outsourced some of the animation to China. Again, that's a very common practice. And then China outsourced it to North Korea. So it was kind of laundered. But I'm like, I guarantee you some people know who's actually doing it. But these guys just, like, I guess apparently paid North Korea directly.
Well, let's explain it and see if we can make sense of it, because I'm trying to figure out how this happened.
Yeah, we're going to read this. This comes from Cartoon Brew, probably the best blog for inside baseball on the animation industry, hands down.
Some people argue that, but anyway.
Some people argue that. The people who are cartoon stans who've never actually worked in the industry, yeah, they're going to say that they don't know what they're talking about. They actually do know what they're talking about. So let's talk about this. Before we get into it any further, please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants. Guys, get woohoo if you do. Woohoo. Again, all the credit to Cartoon Brew. It says Italy's Mondo TV was fined $538,000 by the US Treasury for producing animated shows in North Korea. That is one hell of a headline. Okay,
but let's explain how, because I'm trying to understand how this happened.
Okay,
like why our Treasury can go after an Italian animation company.
Well, here's the answer.
Okay,
Italian animation company Mondo TV has agreed to pay about $500,000 for apparent violations of American sanctions prohibiting the use of the U.S. financial system to send money to North Korea. Between May of 2019 and November of 2021, Mondo sent $537,000 to the North Korean government-run animation studio SEK for production services, according to a press release.
So they knowingly sent it.
Yes, so they just wired it to these.
So how does it affect our Treasury Department?
Well, they said, according to the press release, right? They said by doing so, the U.S. government said Mondo had acted with reckless disregard for U.S. sanctions, laws, and regulations, and caused U.S. banks to process payments for the North Korean government. The U.S. government said Mondo had been subcontracting work to North Korea since the 90s. Mondo, on occasion, has hosted North Korean animators in Italy for animation training. Oh, damn.
But apparently Italy has no problem with using North Korea. It's just they apparently tried to use American payment processing.
Yeah, that's what's going on. They said, so that's how the Treasury got involved. They said, I mean, it's kind of scary.
It's very confusing.
It's kind of scary that the U.S. Treasury keeps tabs on, like, did anybody?
It's like, it's not our country. What the hell?
So they're like, you're laundering money through. Yeah. So before each monthly payment, they said that Mondo accumulated approximately $1.1 million in outstanding debt owed to SEK for several projects. Right. So before each of the monthly payments, because apparently they are on a payment plan with them, SEK would issue an invoice to Mondo that named a third-party company and its bank account details for Mondo to remit payment. Among them, SEK identified two third-party... Okay, this is interesting, because I am wondering if they're not going to go after Warner Brothers, and Amazon. They said SEK identified 2 third-party companies in China and 1 U.S. company, along with their respective account information at several U.S. financial institutions. Mondo then remitted the monthly payments to the intermediaries according to SEK's instructions. Mondo appeared to believe the payments to these third-party companies were to satisfy debts SEK had to these companies. So they're saying Mondo, the Italian studio, is saying that SEK is having them send money to like these other, China and the US or whatever.
But then the US company should be in trouble because they would, China wouldn't, but the US company would be in trouble because why would they remit payment to North Korea?
Yeah, well, they're trying to launder it to make it look like, So throughout the course of their relationship and while remitting payments, according to the agreement, Mondo understood. So here's the difference. Mondo understood they were paying North Korea. Mondo's chief executive officer approved and signed the 2019 agreement, which made explicit reference to North Korea, as did 2 additional contracts he signed on behalf of Mondo with SEK for additional projects. So they're wiring money to U.S. shell organization, I guess, the way I understand it. And they knew that they were paying North Korea. Now, the difference with Warner Brothers and Amazon was they
contracted in South Korea, not knowing they were going to send to China, and it inadvertently went to North Korea.
But now the next question I have is, on paper, they say they didn't know. Could it just be they actually do know, but they don't have it? Like, okay,
they agreed to pay it, so they must know that they're guilty and caught in some way.
Yeah. They said that ultimately Mondo initiated 18 wire transfers to Korean animation studio SEK that were processed by or settled at U.S. financial institutions.
So the U.S. financial institutions know it was being sent there, or did they send it someplace else and from there it got sent to North Korea? They're not being
real
very clear
on it, but
that's why I'm very confused. None of this is clear at all.
Yeah, well, here, they're actually talking about Invincible. They said many questions remain about how much animation work North Korea does for Western producers. A few months ago, a report from the Stimson Center's 38 North project found that American producers may have used production services from North Korea. Unlike Mondo, the Americans were apparently
unaware of it,
apparently unaware their work was being outsourced to the heavily sanctioned Asian country. American shows that were allegedly produced in part in North Korea include Invincible. And Ayanu, is that
I don't know.
That's the, I think it's the Cartoon Network thing. It looks kind of like Avatar. The U.S. government has been increasingly vigilant about it, et cetera, et cetera. So this whole thing, I am wondering if this is not going to blow up into a huge debacle, and we're like they're gonna rip the Band-Aid off, and we're gonna find out that like so much quote unquote Western animation is actually being done in North Korea.
I'm sure it is, because if a lot is going to South Korea and South Korea is outsourcing to China and China has been outsourcing to North Korea, then yes. Or if you're outsourcing to another country like Italy and they're just sending it there.
That's the thing, right? So they're saying that where they got them was that they knowingly made a deal with North Korea and they were using U.S. banks.
That's just it, it's the U.S. banks.
Right.
They were running money through there.
If they weren't running the money through the U.S. banks, it would have been a non-issue.
Problem.
So what is going on, though, is, again, you pay South Korea. South Korea pays China. China is the one, the Chinese studios are the ones making the deals with North Korea. So it's on them, right? So, I mean, this whole thing, like this really could, if it turns out that is the case, and if it turns out that, all the production costs and stuff associated with Western animation are due to cheap labor, and they're like, well, you can't get this company SEK involved at all in any capacity, whatever, then that means that the cost of animation might actually skyrocket.
That's what I'm thinking, yeah.
And then that means there's a lot.
They've been doing all the overrun by the sounds of it.
Right. And then that means that either we're going to have more AI, or they're just not going to greenlight as many shows.
Or the flip side is, if there's independent companies that can do it in a cost-effective manner, now might be the time to set up. Because if you could take some of the overflow so that it's going to a United States company or a company like in Canada or something that can handle the overflow with trained animators who can do it for a reasonable cost, to avoid possibly inadvertently going to North Korea and having to pay sanctions and bad PR, they might be better off to hire those people, and they don't have the corporate overhead. So now might be the good time for independents to start their own.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, because
there's going to be overflow.
Yeah. I mean, back in the day, it was actually pretty simple. It was like you either worked in Hollywood or you worked in, there were some New York studios. And then a lot of times they work with Japanese studios too.
And the cool thing now is if you're independent and you have a group of you, you don't even necessarily need a location if you have the equipment at home. You could just take meetings and everybody work on their own stuff, and you could undercut big corporate studios. Still do things cost effective because they have enough money. Okay, think about this. If they have enough money to pay the South Koreans, and the South Koreans have enough money to go pay the Chinese, and the Chinese have enough money to go pay the North Koreans.
Everybody's taking a cut.
Everybody's taking a cut.
Yeah.
So why don't you just cut out the middleman, and then you can still take less than the major corporations would and still get paid more than they're paying North Koreans? I'm just saying, you know what I mean? And then they're going to be cracking down. It sounds like there's going to be an opportunity here.
That's true. That's true.
I mean, in my opinion.
Looking on the bright side of it.
I mean, because
right?
if you don't have the overhead and everybody can do it from, you have like their small location, everybody works together, or everybody can do it at home in your small thing with not as much overhead, and you can compete, you might as well try.
Well, there we go. So there maybe some good will come out of this. But
I don't know. I mean, what do you think?
I think we're going to go down a rabbit hole, and we're going to find out that so much 2D animation is being sent to North Korea.
I'm not asking about that. I'm asking what you think about my idea.
I think it's a good idea. I think that right now, I think just in general, and I had this conversation with Peter Pischke on his podcast and talking about these big corporations just kind of running everything. I think right now we need more independent companies, more smaller pockets.
Well, we have all these animators going out of work or getting laid off, and they're really skilled. Use your skills, people.
Yeah,
use them for your own benefit, not somebody else's that could lay you off. Start your own thing. Get in a co-op with other people and go after these jobs because it sounds like there's gonna be a lot of jobs soon.
Yeah,
just saying.
And live someplace cheaper. You don't have to live in LA.
That's why I said do it from home. You can Skype in together and
move to like, I don't know, middle like Utah's. I don't know. But you can work someplace else. You don't have to work in Burbank or Glendale. So there we go. We're gonna be watching this story because this is gonna be really interesting to see what happens, what the fallout from this could potentially be. So we're gonna wrap it up.
Yep.
Please subscribe. We'll talk later.
Bye.